Hey guys, it's Shay Money and welcome back. Well, this is the first episode, but I'm really excited. Hi, I'm Shay and welcome back to my YouTube channel. Today is a very special day because it is episode 1. Hey guys, it's Shay and welcome back to my channel. I am super excited today because I'm starting my first weekly series on here. Hello. Oh, damn, I hate that. Hi. Hey, I'm Shay. Welcome back to my channel. Hi, I'm Shay and welcome to episode 1 of Sips and Synopsis. My first weekly show that I'm doing on here, where I will be sipping on something special. Today is going to be some wine that was on sale at Publix, and I read the synopsis of a story. So if you're a girly who doesn't like to read, but you like to know what's going on and you like a little story, you've come to the right place. But if you're a girly who does like to read, you've also come to the right place because we're discussing books. Yes, we are, ladies and gentlemen. So sit back and relax, and let's get into it. Okay guys, I'm a little bit nervous. This is my first episode of Sips and Synopsis, but like I said, first episode is going to be The House Across the Lake by Riley Sager. This is a thriller mystery book, and this was the first book that I read that I was like, what the heck? So I thought it would be the perfect book to talk about because I like talking about this book. I'm not playing with you guys today. I've written notes on this entire thing, 6 pages worth, to make sure that I get this right for you guys. I'm gonna start with the characters. So the main character is Casey Fletcher. She's an alcoholic actress, and after running into some bad stuff with the press, she's decided to go to her family's lake house on Lake Green and just, hide out for a bit and chill. So she's our main character. Next character is Len Fletcher, Casey's late husband who died in the lake the previous year. Then we have Catherine Royce, which is a former supermodel and is also Casey's neighbor and lives in the house across the lake. Then we have Tom Royce, who is Catherine's husband, and he is a struggling app developer, is what we know about him. We have Boone Conrad, who is a former police officer, now handyman, who is neighbors of Casey and he's not really neighbors of Casey. He's working on the house next door and fixing it up for the summer. Then we have Wilma Anson, who is Boone's former coworker, who is an active officer now and gets involved in the case that we'll be reading. And then we have Eli, longtime friend of Casey and her family, and he's a neighbor who is next to the Royce's house across the lake, and he sometimes gets booze for her. Like I said, she's an alcoholic, he's providing the booze. Is that such a good idea? We'll find out. And some extras is Casey's mom and Casey's friend. I don't really include details about Casey's mom and Casey's friend or their interactions because I just don't think that it pushes the storyline any further. So I kind of left out their parts because this video would be so freaking long if I just literally included everything. Alcoholic actress Katie Fletcher has retreated to her family's cabin at Lake Green, Vermont to hide from the press. She is haunted by the death of her screenwriter husband Len, who drowned in Lake Green the previous year. While watching the lake one afternoon, she rescues her neighbor, former runway model Catherine Royce, from drowning. Now, we believe that this is a traumatic experience for Casey, as we learned that her husband has previously drowned in the lake last year. So her going out there and saving her neighbor and jumping in the lake and being this hero is kind of her reliving her trauma, in my opinion, when I was reading it, because if her husband died on the lake, I don't think I would want to go in the lake. But of course she sees her neighbor struggling and she thinks she's dead, so she goes out and rescues her, right? So over the next several days, Casey befriends Catherine and her husband, app developer Tom, And Casey starts feeling like a strange closeness to Catherine and her husband, but mostly Catherine, even though they just met recently. And Catherine has been kind of touchy with Casey and close to her as well, but it's nothing too out of the ordinary where she thinks that it's weird. After this, Casey develops a habit of watching the Royces in their large house across the lake from her own with binoculars while she day drinks. So basically the story opens up that Casey is just in this house drinking all the time, and now she's made a hobby of watching the house across the lake. So the next day, while sharing an expensive bottle of wine, Catherine reveals to Casey that Tom's startup is struggling for lack of capital and that her own money is keeping the two of them afloat. If I'm remembering correctly, Tom is the one who pushed Catherine to stop modeling. So in my opinion, this man is a walking red flag. He's trying to control you, Catherine. You need to get away from him. Talking about that she doesn't need to be a model anymore. Girl, make your money. But anyway, so after this, ever since that she's gotten rescued from this lake, she's complaining of constant headaches and dissociative episodes before collapsing from heavy drinking. On a night where Catherine, Tom, another neighbor Eli, and Casey are all just hanging out because the Royces decide to come over to thank Casey for saving his wife. The next morning, Casey is woken on her back porch that she fell asleep on the previous night by a scream, and later that day realizes that Catherine is missing. Social media posts suggest that she has returned to Manhattan, but Casey discovers that these have been fabricated. So Casey is going full on detective mode here, and she notices that the photo that Catherine posted on her Instagram or whatever is old, and apparently like the leaves in the background and the calendar in the photo suggest that the photo was taken in September, which is not when the story takes place. And you can kind of see her husband in the background of the photo because you can see his reflection in it. So Casey thinks that, oh, this must have been Tom who posted it because this must have been on Tom's phone. Casey, after this, downloads Tom's app called Mixer, and this lets you view the location of other app users, and it shows that Catherine, or at least her phone, is still at Lake Green, and this is leading her to believe that Tom may have killed his wife. After learning all of this information, she confesses her suspicion to the local handyman Boone Conrad. What a name, let me just say that. So she confesses everything she learns to Boone, and she's had her eye on Boone for a while now. Hold on, let me get, this is Sips and Synopsis, not just Synopsis. So, she has told Boone everything she knows so far, and she thinks something weird is going on. And a little backstory on Casey and Boone is, I believe, I don't know if it was the first time that she saw Boone, but maybe like the second time. At night, Boone starts skinny dipping in the lake, and she's kind of watching him, and it's like, oh my god, like he's kind of fine. And this is a little bit creepy. Like, I know this is creepy, but that's just kind of showing that I guess she's interested in him. But the two eventually grow closer as Boone tells Casey, my pages are out of order. Okay. So basically, Boone and Casey eventually grow closer, and Boone opens up to Casey and tells her that his wife passed away as well, and he knows what she's going through, and that his wife passed away from falling down the stairs. So the two begin to spy on the Royce house together, and one night they see Tom come home with a bag full of black tarp, rope, and a hacksaw. Now, if you see your neighbor and you think that he is suspected of something sinister and his wife is missing, and you see him come home with some suspicious items, what are you gonna think? In my opinion, while I was reading this, I was like, all right, they're trying to make a red herring, right? It's always the husband. But in these books, there's usually a twist, and it's usually not who you suspect it to be. So in my head, I'm like, okay, is it Boone? Anyway, let's get back into the story. One thing that I forgot to mention is that this book from the very beginning flips from past to present, where in the present, Casey has someone tied up in her house whom she's interrogating. And now as the reader, we believe this to be Tom because he looks guilty. So we're assuming that he is the one in Casey's house that she has tied up, and she's interrogating, asking where Catherine is, etc. Conrad, or Boone Conrad, former police officer, contacts his former co-worker Wilma Anson, and Anson comes over, and after they tell her everything that they've been noticing about their neighbor, she dismisses their suspicion. But when Casey recovers a broken piece of wine glass that Catherine drank from the night before she disappeared, Anson reveals that the Royces may be connected to an active investigation, 3 young girls who disappeared from the surrounding area and are now presumed dead, victims of a serial killer. Okay, so Anson's like, hold up. Now that you gave me some of this evidence, this kind of looks similar to a string of cases of a serial killer that we have not caught yet. So that's something to think about. And another thing to note is that all that night when all of the neighbors were together, except for Boone, with Catherine, where she passed out from drinking the wine, Eli was telling a ghost story about the lake and how spooky it is and how people's souls can get trapped in the lake. That's going to play a part later in this, so I thought I would bring that up. So despite Anson's warnings, Casey continues spying on the Royce home. That's, a habit is a habit, am I right? This girl can't just go and watch TV. Like, she has to spy on the Royces. Like, that's her TV now. It's reality TV. In real life, reality TV. Yeah, so she and Boone Conrad begin to investigate the case of the missing girls, and Casey goes into the Royces' home to find more evidence, as well as Catherine's phone hidden in a dresser drawer with many missed calls from a certain number. Casey's suspicions turn to Boone Conrad himself when she discovers that Conrad was at one point a suspect in his wife's death. As well, she finds out that the missing calls on Catherine's phone, end up being from Boone Conrad calling her. I'm gonna let that sink in. This line.
Disgusting!
Not my favorite. Oof. So this is crazy because Boone previously says in the book that he is not close with the Royces and he barely knows them. So for Casey to find out that Boone Conrad was blowing her up and that he was a suspect in his wife's murder, Casey's side-eyeing Boone. Like, why are you not telling me the truth if you have nothing to hide, right? After that, Boone wants to dig himself a deeper hole, which, I'm glad that he's coming clean finally, but he's just not helping with the situation because Boone then confesses to being Catherine's affair partner. What? So Casey, feeling like she can no longer trust anyone, Casey takes matters into her own hands. She breaks into the Royces' home again and finds Catherine tied up in the basement, but still alive. Okay, she's still alive. Mom comes in and finds Casey finding Catherine and confronts them and explains
that Catherine
is in fact
Casey's dead husband, Len.
What? Excuse me?
This is where the book loses me, because this book was not giving supernatural the entire time, and now all of a sudden Catherine is Casey's dead husband, Len. What? So then after that, Casey's like, no, it's not my husband, like, what are you talking about, obviously. And
Catherine,
Len, eventually convinces her, yes, it's me, your dead husband, I'm gonna tell you a bunch of stuff that only I would know, and eventually it's true, and she believes him that Catherine is possessed by Len. It's revealed that Len is a serial killer behind the 3 girls that are dead, and Casey found this out. And we learned that Casey actually found this out in the past when her husband was still alive, because she saw the girls on the news and she recognized them somehow. So she started looking into her husband. So this is in the past, mind you, he's still alive. She's looking into her husband because she thinks that he's suspicious about maybe has some involvement with these 3 girls. Like, that has to be gut-wrenching to think that your partner can do something like that. So she's not just gonna accuse him, she's gonna try to see, is there any evidence here? She finds out that Len was not good at covering his tracks. Men, am I right? Hotel reservations for him being in LA, which would have been his alibi, were canceled, and they lined up with the dates of the murders of the 3 dead girls. So while Len was doing his screenwriting and going out to LA, telling his wife, oh, I'm gonna go to LA and try to secure this deal, all of the stuff that he booked in LA ended up being canceled, and we don't know where he was during that time. So Casey starts to suspect Len even more, because why are you lying to me about where you're going, and where were you while these girls were murdered? At one point, Len had asked her to go get his special lighter out of the garage because he can't find it. And she goes into the garage to find his lighter, and she starts looking in his fishing tackle box, thinking maybe he left it in there from his last fishing trip. The fishing tackle box is filled with hair strands, driver's licenses, and other memorabilia of the 3 missing girls. Missing at the time. They're dead. When Casey found out about this, she figured that it's gonna look bad on her part, especially since she's an actor, that a serial killer was just living under her nose and she didn't know anything about it. So she's like, hey, I'm gonna try to get the guy to confess to me, and then I'm gonna bring him to the police station. And at least I know that he confessed to me, because, I mean, you're married. The least he can do is freaking confess to you. Like I said, she figured she could get him to confess to her before turning him in, so she drugged his wine multiple times. These people love to drink wine. Hey, I'm people. So she drugged his wine, like he had 3 glasses, he drugged his wine. She drugged his wine every time. Wow, what a tongue twister. Casey drugged Len's wine multiple times that night and acted like nothing was wrong. She was like, I'm an actor. I can act for one more night just to see if I can get this MF to confess, right? Eventually, they're out just chilling in the lake house, and she's like, hey babe, like, let's go out on the water. Like, it's such a nice night. The water's so calm. It's so beautiful. It's almost midnight. Like, look at the moon. It's gonna be so romantic, right? And he's like, I don't know, babe. I'm like so tired, and because he's been drugged. He's like, I'm tired, babe. Like, I'm not sure. And she's like, come on, babe. Like, it's so romantic. Like, let's do it. And basically seduces him to go out onto the lake at 12 o'clock at night and not put on the motor because she doesn't want to wake her neighbors. Go out into the middle of the lake. She confronts him. He eventually confesses, and when he confesses, she pushes him off of the boat. And since he was drugged and tired as hell, Len drowned in Lake Green. She went back to bed after that and staged everything to make it seem like Len went on a morning or late night fishing and drowned on his own. And the police, of course, believed it because this is a book and it's not real life. I'm gonna read you a quote from the book where Casey was a savage and pushed him off because, I don't know, why not? Okay, I'm gonna read an excerpt when Casey pushes Len into the water, leading to his death. Let's do it. I'm so sorry, Cece, Len said. Please, please forgive me. Please don't turn me in. Finally, I relented, and I pulled him into an embrace. Len seemed to melt as I wrapped my arms around him. He put his head to my chest, still sobbing, as 1,000 memories of our marriage passed through my thoughts. I love you so much, Len said. Do you love me? Not anymore, I said. Then I pushed him over the side of the boat and watched him vanish into the dark water. She did that. She was like, F you. You killed all those girls. How do you like it when it's done to you? Let's see. Then she just sat there and was like, I guess I'm not coming back up. Since then, Len's ghost has been haunting the lake, waiting for a new body to possess. He took over Catherine's body when she fell in the lake and was rescued by Casey. We now know that the person Casey has tied up in her house is Catherine, Casey's husband Len, possessing her body. So Casey takes Catherine, Len, to her home and forces him to reveal where he hid the bodies of the 3 girls. She sends the information to the authorities and tricks Len for moving into Catherine's body to her own body, and then tries to drown herself in the lake. Then, when Catherine becomes conscious from Len leaving her body, she actually rescues Casey. Back home, Casey is now confronted with Tom, who attacks her for uncovering his plot to murder his wife. She kills him in self-defense, and Casey and Catherine bond over this shared experience, and Casey decides to stay at Lake Green in case Len's spirit returns. In the end, Casey and Boone are in a relationship. What? So yeah, that's basically how the book ends. Yeah. Do you see why this had to be the first book that I talked about on Sip and Synopsis? Because what was that? I'm going to talk about what I enjoyed about the book and what I didn't enjoy about the book. What I enjoyed, I have everything here. What I enjoyed was I loved the time jumping. I didn't really talk about it much as I was going through the book because I kind of wanted to tell the story in chronological order. I know at the end we kind of got jumbled up, but I didn't want to tell it in the order that the book tells it because that would have been a little bit confusing and it would have been a lot. So, but when I'm reading the book, I really enjoyed the time jumping from past to present. It's probably one of my favorite ways that an author can make a book more suspenseful, and my favorite kinds of books are suspenseful. And they keep you reading because you want to know what's happening in this time and what's happening in that time. So then you're also wondering how those timelines are going to line up at the end. So I did like that. I also enjoyed having one setting for the entire book. I didn't know how I was going to feel about that, but I did like it. And obviously the setting was Lake Green. It felt like it was its own character, and it added like an extra creepy factor because the longer you stay in this one area, it's like you're wondering, like if you're in a forest and you go for a hike, you're not really thinking too heavy about it, but like the longer you stay in the forest, the more you're like, oh, what was that noise? Or like, what could be out there right now? Stuff like that. You kind of feel the same way when you're in the same place in a book. And now we're going to move on to what I didn't like. Alright, so what I didn't like about the book, I didn't like Boone Conrad sleeping with Catherine and then Casey still pursuing a relationship with him. Ugh. I understand that people make mistakes, but it just made Boone seem undesirable and horny for any woman that he meets on the lake. And I said what I said. And let me know how, if you read the book, how you felt about Boone and Catherine getting together at the end, and how you felt about him, not Boone and Catherine, Boone and Casey getting together at the end, and how you felt about him and Catherine sleeping together. Another main thing that I didn't like was the paranormal twist at the end. I felt the entire book, for at least 75%, was rooted in reality, and the whole possession kind of came out of left field. I understand that Eli told a creepy story about the lake and that they hinted that Catherine and Casey felt really close to one another, but I didn't feel like it was enough foreshadowing, and I just simply did not like the ending. It felt like an easy way to wrap it up, as the rules of the paranormal were a bit lazy in my opinion, but I feel like it took me out of the reality of the book that I respected so much when it was building. Does that make sense? This is one of Riley Sager's controversial thrillers because of the abrupt twist at the end, and it splits readers' opinions, but overall I did like everything before the twist and was convinced it was going to be a 5-star read for me. Due to how much I dislike the ending, I'm actually going to give it a 3.7 rating. It would have been a 5, but I just really did not like the ending. But can we talk about this cover? I love the cover of this book, and I think it's because I like the colors. I like the blue-green, and then the yellow letters just pop so well, and then you can see a little house. I thought it was so cute. I think this is an aesthetic cover. So 5 out of 10 on the cover. So when I looked up the rating on Goodreads, I actually have already rated the book before I looked at what the rating was, which I like to do because I don't want other people to sway my opinion before I make it. And then I let people sway my opinion after. But anyway, so the rating on Goodreads is a 3.6, which made me feel so good about my rating because I rated it a 3.7. So I was like, okay, that makes sense. I'm justified, you know? So now I have some reviews. I think this will be fun to include in every episode that I read like a 1 star, a 2, I read a every star review about the book. So let's hear some reviews about it. So we have the 1 star review. I hate it. Hold on. We have our 1 star review. I hate it when a perfectly good murder mystery devolves by invoking some supernatural ex machina to solve the crime. This one was overwrought and overwritten to boot. Okay. 2 star. 2 star review. This book started out strong with a good storyline that held my attention. Then the reveal / supernatural twist made me not want to finish at all. Unsure what the author was thinking in regard to that twist, when you could have gone a few other ways without the supernatural aspect that, based on other reviews, lost other readers as well. I really agree with that 2 star review. That's exactly how I felt. And it was a large disappointment because I really loved the first 75% of the book, like I said. So it was really disappointing. But I read that book months ago at this point, and after really sitting on it, I didn't want to let the end affect my rating that much. But when it was in the moment, I was pissed about the end. So there's no 3 star reviews, but there is a 4 star review. It started off so strong. It is overall an enjoyable, simple, yet engaging read. I wouldn't have given it 5 stars. I would have given it 5 stars until the author revealed who the killer was. I don't want to give any spoilers in case you choose to read it. Well, I already gave spoilers. But I'm just going to say the supernatural type vibe is not it. It was shocking, that's for sure. But at the same time, it was also a what the heck is going on moment. I found the supernatural premise to be annoying, and the relationship the main character has with the killer unexpected. There is no hints or clues anywhere, causing another what the heck is going on moment instead of a whoa, wow, this is so good moment for the reader. Would I recommend this book to anyone? Definitely not. However, I did enjoy the read. Yes, I enjoyed the author's writing style a lot, and I don't regret it. You know, I kind of agree with that review, but I would recommend the book to somebody. I think it's a great book. I just don't like the author's decision at the end. That was it. And then the 5 star review is, this was by far one of the best books I've ever read from Riley Sager. There were so many twists and turns, I just couldn't put it down. And it definitely was the best one for someone just getting into thriller and horror. And the ending was so satisfying and perfect. So there are some people who really like the ending. I know that I personally picked up the book because a booktuber, Haley Pham, read this book and gave it a 5 stars and recommended it, and she doesn't really like horror or suspense and stuff like that, and this is like my favorite genre, so I was like, okay, I'll give it a try, and I don't regret reading it. I loved the book. I just did not like the supernatural twist at the end. I do feel like the other reviewers that it was out of left field, but other than that, thank you so much for tuning into my first episode of Sip and Synopsis. I was your host, Shay, and I'll see you next time.